Hi, I'm Dawn, and this is where Shabby meets Bling.
This is a downright free-for-all, a Can't Sleep Creations collaboration. I would like to thank my co-hosts, Annie from Crafting with Indie Annie Jones, Monica from Up All Night DIY, and Jody from Jody at Southern Seasons. You're going to find the links to their channels and this extended playlist in my description box below. So, I'm at the Goodwill. You people probably think I live here. I do not. I do not live at the Goodwill. I'm in the candle aisle, and I love these tiny little votive battery-operated candles. And I try them first, and if they don't work, I don't get them, because it's not worth buying a battery. Look at that. What does that remind you of? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. This is the household section, and I have been dreaming of finding something like these. They're bowls without rims and basically don't have bottoms. You see them rocking back there? Look at that. It's like half a sphere. And I need 4 good ones. I wish there were 6 here. There's only 5. I'm going to get these and a few other things, and I'm going to head on home.
Alrighty. I made a quick trip to my 2 places. My favorite place, which I found a couple of things. See this? I would stand it up for you, but it won't stand up because of the bolts on the bottom. I will be disassembling, of course, to make it stand upright, but do you remember these things? I mean, I think this was like 80s maybe? $2. That'll be fun to do something with. Very fun. Alrighty. I also got at my favorite place. It's a little finial. Just a straight finial, and I bought it for a reason. I know what I'm going to do with it. So that was my 2 of the little items I got at my favorite place. You saw me pick these out at Goodwill. Also at Goodwill, I found 3 canes. And you know that I do stuff with the canes. I'll leave the link for my major walking cane video in the description box for you. But if you notice, these 2 were $1.49. This one said $3.49. I took them up to the register, and she's like, I don't understand that. They're all $1.49 for you. I'm like, thank you so much. And I also got this. And I have plans for this too. There we go. Just a tiny little treasure trove of goodies to work with. So excited. Oh, FYI. Halloween, Christmas, Halloween.
Since it is July, I'm starting with one of my Christmas projects, and that involves these stainless steel bowls. I'm going to take 2 of them, and I am going to somehow figure out how I'm going to glue them together like so, just like that. See how it looks like a giant ornament? A giant metal Christmas ornament? Yeah, well, that's the plan. So we will see if I can figure this out. I've got a couple ideas rattling around in my brain, my teeny tiny little brain. And if I can make that happen, then I'm going to use one of these little molds, these little vintage molds, as the top of my little ornament. I picked these up in a bag for $2, the entire bag. What a deal. I got them at my favorite resale shop, and they should do the trick. Now, I've never done anything like this before. The only thing I'm keeping in mind is I'm going to glue metal to metal to metal. So hopefully I have a glue that will make this happen. So here we go. I am going to be using some pallet strapping, metal pallet strapping that I picked up at Restore a few years ago. I'm cutting strips of this pallet strapping, and I'm going to glue it with Gorilla Glue onto the inside of each of the bowls that are going to be the bottom parts of my ornaments. I am going to take them and just a teeny tiny little bit of glue, and then I'm going to clamp them into place. I'm going to put 6 of these tabs on each of the bottom bowls. Now I have bent them to fit the inside of the bottom bowl, and I'm going to gently curve the top, the part that's sticking out right there, gently curve so that when I glue the other bowl on top, it has a surface to adhere to. Because right now, sticking straight up in the air, it's not gonna even go on the top of this. So I need to make it conform to the shape of the other bowl. Once I get all 6 tabs glued and clamped into place, I will set my little bowl aside and let it dry, and then I will do the same with my second bowl. To make sure they really adhere, I'm going to let them dry for 24 hours. I will try my best to be patient, but it needs to be done if I want these things to hold. Here we are, 24 hours later, and we're gonna see what happened. The moment of truth. The unclamping of the clamps. Oh, look at there. I think the Gorilla Glue was the way to go for metal to metal. Yeah, remember that, everybody. Gorilla Glue, metal to metal. These things are really nice and firm in place. But I am not going to trust just these 6 tabs to hold the top into place. I am going to be overly cautious, as I tend to be, and I'm going to add a strip horizontal in between each of the little tabs. I will be using that metal strapping again, and I will cut a piece that fits in between each tab and glue them into place. Once glued, I will clamp them and wait another very irritating 24 hours. 2 days later. Here's what I have. I have a bowl with a bunch of metal sticking out of it, but the Gorilla Glue is holding. Next, I will add Gorilla Glue to the tabs and to the top of the horizontals and place the other bowl on top and wait for yet another 24 hours for this to dry. While I'm waiting, I'm making good use of my time, and I'm going to make some embellishments for my ornaments. Here they are drying. You can see this one did not meet up exactly. It did in a couple places, but not all the way around. So what I did was I took some Fast and Final and I filled that gap. Here is the other one. This one met up absolutely perfect. Perfect. I was so thrilled. Made me want to tear the other one apart and try again. But the bowls were not exactly the same size. What I'm going to do next is make some embellishments out of flower clay for my little ornaments. Not so little ornaments, they're pretty big. I'm going to use some cookie cutters and some fondant cutters to create some designs. I'm not sure if I'm going to go with all snowflakes and make them coordinate, or snowflakes and ornaments. I'm not sure, but I'm going to make a plethora of little shapes and we'll see what I like. I started with a bunch of snowflakes, and you guys have seen me use flower clay so many times, I decided just to cut to the chase and get right to me decorating my little snowflakes. I am going to add some dimension to them by just using a burnishing tool and a couple of sculpting tools. I am creating some lines and little dots on them to make them look more snowflake-esque. The shape alone, yeah, you can tell it's a snowflake, but come on, can you really? Can you really? Once I get all of my little dots and my lines in the snowflakes, I'm gonna set these aside to dry as well, but not for very long, not for very long. I need these to be pliable when I adhere them onto my big ornaments. I'm gonna call them ornaments now. They're no longer bowls. You can't use them as bowls. Here you can see I did make some of the ornaments out of clay, but I don't know. I'm decorating them with a couple of clay wheels to give them a little bit of a pattern, but I'm not sure I like the way they look. I don't know how I feel about putting ornaments on an ornament. So we'll see what happens, won't we? Yeah, we'll see what happens. I don't know yet, honestly. Not until they're painted and I can actually hold them up to the big ornament to see how it looks. Then I'll decide. Well, I am being very patient. I'm very proud of myself. I'm showing patience for once. I am patiently waiting and utilizing my time. I am making caps for the top of my ornaments. I'm using those molds I showed you earlier and I am going to drill a hole in the top of each of them. They need to have holes in the top so I can put that little loop inside, which I will be making next. I got into my big old wire bucket and I busted out my scaffolding wire simply because it was the biggest. It was the biggest chunks of wire that I have that I can bend relatively easily. What I'm doing is I'm taking that scaffolding wire and I'm wrapping it around a round object. Round and around. This is just a little bottle of whiteout. I feel using this would make the appropriate size little round loop that I need. It will be in proportion to my ornament. After I have my little loop made, I will cut it off and it will be inserted later after I've painted my little tart pans. And of course, I make two. Now I'm going to make the biggest ornament hook I've ever made. I am just eyeballing this. I'm not going to wrap it around anything. I'm just using my wire cutters and a jewelry tool to get my curves the way I want them. The tricky part is going to be getting a second ornament hook to be identical. And what I'll do is I will just hold this one in place and bend the other one right up next to it. So I get a very, very similar shape. My snowflakes are dry to the point where I want them to be. They're not too dry, they're still pliable. So that gives me some leeway when I go to glue these onto my giant ornaments. What I'm doing right here is I'm taking the edge of my scissors and I'm just kind of scraping away any excess clay that shouldn't be there. I'm just cleaning up those edges. Once I get the edges clean, I will take a paintbrush and dust away all of the extra cornstarch that has accumulated on the front and on the back. With the cornstarch gone, these will adhere very nicely to my ornament. All of my flour clay snowflakes have been prepped. They've been prepped for paint, and I'm not going to spray paint them immediately. They will get spray painted. They're going to get spray painted antique gold, but first they're going to get painted in a Decor Americana acrylic paint, and the color is gray sky. Now you may wonder why I'm painting these, and I'm only painting the front, not the back. I am painting them to create a level playing field. I will be painting those little vintage molds, which are an aluminum. They're like a silver. So I'm going to paint these the same color so that way when I spray paint all of those items with that antique gold, they will have a similar appearance. If I were to leave these white and just spray them antique gold, they may not come out the same. And I need these items to all look the exact same. I want my snowflakes to look like they're metal. That's what I'm trying to do. If they don't look like metal, they won't look like they belong on a metal ornament. Once all my little snowflakes are painted in this gray, I'm going to let them dry thoroughly, then we're heading to the paint booth. Yeah, my basement. Here we are in the paint booth. I am using a Rust-Oleum metallic antique gold to spray paint my snowflakes. I already have one coat on that little mold, but now I'm gonna hit all the rest of those little snowflakes in the other shapes that I made. I'm only hitting them one time. They're getting one nice coat and then they're gonna head up, and the minute they're dry, we're gonna start adding them onto our ornaments. Okay, it's time to decorate this thing. This is the worst one. This is the one with the gap. And you can see it's not that bad. It's really not. It seems like as it's curing, it's almost shaping itself to that inner band that I put in there. This is the fast and final. You can see it in the gap. And you may say, Dawn, what's fast and final? This is fast and final. It is a lightweight spackling, but it's a little more condensed than my one time. One time seems to be more of a whipped, airy kind of thing. This is a little more solid. So that's why I used it for this, and it did dry really quick. But if you ever use something like that on stainless steel, it gets gunky. So just be aware. Now it is time to decorate this guy. Now I only made so many snowflakes. Both are going to be snowflakes. I
am going to make them coordinate, but not be matchy-matchy. I need to take into consideration that I need to bridge this gap here because there's that little bump, and I'm going to be using probably one of the big guys here to do that. I am going to create a border to begin with all the way around the perimeter, and I'm going to start with the nice side that I designated will be the front. I am going to glue them into place with 3-in-1 glue. I'm going to start with one of my medium-sized snowflakes, and we're going to just start gluing. I'm going to use my little Windex rag underneath it so it doesn't roll around. Woo! Snowflake down. And we're going to start gluing.
I apply my 3-in-1 glue, and then I hold these into place. Keep in mind, metal is cold. It just is. Even though it's hotter than the dickens outside, my metal is cold, so you need to hold them into place until they adhere completely. I'm using a toothpick to gently remove any extra glue.
Here's one of my caps. And to make sure that it is going to sit flat on top of my ornaments, what I did was I took some of that pallet strapping and I used Gorilla Glue and I glued it right on the inside. The inside's kind of a mess, but that's okay. I know it's not going to come out. And if I take it and I lay it flat, this touches just like that touches. I don't want to get glue on this because it'll ooze out and get all over my ornament. So now to apply it on the top, I'm going to add 3-in-1. I'm going to add 3-in-1 just on this inside piece of pallet strapping, and I'm going to center it as best I can onto the top of the ornament. But first, I need to add our loop that we made, and I'm just going to squeeze the parts together. Put them right on through there. Now later, I can add the big old hook. I mean, come on. How cool is that? Giant jumbo. There we go. Now I just need to glue it and let it sit. Oh, and bend the little pieces back so they don't stab into the top of my ornament. But you get the idea. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
My ornaments are drying, so I'm going to take care of one more thing. Do you remember that? You've seen this lantern in many, many, many intros and exits of my videos. So now we're going to fix it. We're going to fix it with that cute little finial. But first, I'm going to straighten the bottom of this lantern. When I bought it, it was like this. It had a missing finial at the top, and that little foot was crooked, so it never quite sat right, and it always had that hole in the top. So now, I'm going to fix that as well. That little finial is going to fit perfectly on here. It will. Trust me, it will. I'm just going to use my pliers to squeeze together those pieces of metal that are broken on top. I need to squeeze it down so that it's small enough so that my finial can fit right on top. After a little manhandling of the top of this little lantern, I finally get it to the point where the finial does fit. I will be gluing it into place with Gorilla Glue. I have already taken some brown packing paper and tucked it up into the cavity of the finial to take up some of that negative space so that when I do glue it, it won't wobble around. When I'm ready to glue, I will add some glue inside the cavity, and then I will gently twist it, almost screwing it on to the top of the lantern. Then I need to make sure that it is level and plumb, and then I will set it aside to dry.
My projects are complete. Let's take a look. Let's start with the lantern. There she is. Looks nice, right? Looks like that finial was always there. Now, let's take a look at our ornaments.
Here are my giant metal ornaments. I'm pretty happy with the way they came out. And I'm pretty surprised that they actually glued together and they're actually staying. I think my favorite thing are the giant ornament hooks. I think they're pretty cool. As with a lot of things that are metal, they tend to show up better in photographs versus video. So let's take a look at some photos. Here's the back of each of the ornaments. A little more scaled down, a little more, shall we say, demure. I don't want to say plain because they're not plain. But they're definitely not as jazzy as their other sides. That's where I added extra snowflakes in different sizes for variety, you know. I am very pleased with these stainless steel bowls turned into ornaments, but 2 will never do. I'm going to have to find a couple of larger bowls, so that will give me a set of 3. You have been watching a free-for-all, a Can't Sleep Creations collaboration. Thanks again to Annie, Monica, and Jody for joining me tonight. You're going to find the links to their channels and this playlist in my description box below. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, like, comment, and share. Share it with someone you think might enjoy it as well. Don't forget to subscribe and think about joining for extra perks monthly. Ring the bell for notifications of all my upcoming videos, and you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook. But for now, this is Dawn with Shabby Meets Bling. Thank you so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you next time.